Fort Macon is one of the visited parks here in North Carolina. Waterfront, but towards the left, you see, that is the Beaufort waterfront, and that's key, because during the Battle of Fort Macon, during that 11-hour siege, when it first starts off on the morning of April 25th, the fort is doing what it's designed. The U.S. Navy's 4 gunships off here turn back. They're damaged. Beaufort is a significant port, so there was the need for a fort. Fort Macon is the third of 3 different forts that used to be here. During the Revolutionary War, there was a sand fort, wood fort, that's now out here in the inlet. And then right after 1812, there was another temporary fort established here. That's now in the inlet. Inlets shift and change on the Outer Banks due to hurricane. And actually the third and final fort that was ever here defending this is now Fort Macon.
As you experience the park today, take a moment to think of those who walked these ways for the war between the states of the North and the South. North Carolina's governor chose to side with the Confederate states, and he ordered North Carolina troops to take over all military posts in the state from its lone caretaker without incident on April 14, 1861. Brigadier General Ambrose Burnside set sail with a large Union force that planned to capture the North Carolina coast from Roanoke Island to Fort Macon. The Union plan succeeded at each phase, with the quick capture of Roanoke Island, followed by the fall of New Bern and then Beaufort. Soon the Union forces had Fort Macon surrounded, and on April 25th, the Union forces opened fire on Fort Macon. By 11 a.m., the Union shells were on target, and the fort's guns and walls began to take a terrible beating. A white flag was raised over the fort, and on the following morning of April 26th, Fort Macon was surrendered to Union states. Union forces occupied the fort, and it was used primarily as a military prison. After the war ended in 1865, Fort Macon became a typical military post
that made third system forts, which are primarily brick masonry forts, Sumter, Fort Macon, obsolete. This is rifle technology. It's still a muzzle-loaded weapon, but down the bore of this weapon, down the tube, you can feel the rifling in it. You see almost going back in time to sand and wooden forts by the end of the war. See, rifle technology, if you fire this shell into a sand dune like Fort Fisher, all it does is bury itself deep and go poof. It's called the covered way here, and you can walk from room to room to room all the way around this fort. This is the outer perimeter. You see the moat. It was floodable. They could open up the gates. With the incoming tide, you could literally flood the moat, so you could get about 3 to 4 feet of water. But unfortunately, by 1862, there is about this sand here somewhat settled, so you've got about a 2 or 3 feet window of opportunity for that 30-pound parrot to get a shot in at the main citadel. Those are called counterfires. There's 4 of them in this fort. And up on top there, you see that little stubby little obsolete naval carronade gun? Well, part of the defense was if infantry got down into this moat and was trying to breach the citadel from these little counterfire batteries here, here, and over there, and there was another one at the war, those little carronade guns could fire grape shot or canister down the moat, and you would kill whoever's down in it. Where the shell was coming from, but they could not get a direct hit because their shells were bearing right into the sand dune and going poof.
Over here you can see the guns that are up on top of the fort. There were a whole lot more than there are now.
That 11-inch Columbine was manufactured in Richmond, Virginia during the Civil War. It is the only original Confederate gun in this fort. But after the war, the U.S. Army was selling a bunch of war surplus, and the ship sank on its way to Central America, and salvage divers brought it up, and we were right after
World War II guns aiming at German submarines off the coast.
Purposes. Soldiers either slept in these rooms, commandant's headquarters, commissary, dining facility, and You would heat it up, get it red hot, load it into the muzzle of that 24-pounder or 32-pounder. You fire it at the wooden ship offshore, and you might get lucky and get a shot right near the galley of the ship or the magazine of the ship. It's smoking red hot. All of a sudden, you got a fire on the wooden ship, and there was another one outside down in the moat there for those guns on the outer covered way. Okay. Pork, obviously coffee, brown sugar, and then there was the bread ration. You noticed on my slide yesterday, everything was hardtack. You could slam it on against the brick wall, it's not going to crack. You've got the fireplace here, Civil War period, and then you have the World War II modification for the potbelly stoves. Wooden floor, plastered, anywhere upwards to 70 soldiers in here. Two on the bottom bunk, 2 on the top bunk, 4 to a bunk bed, basically. They shared one of 3 powder magazines in this fort. You look above you, Civilian Conservation Corps during the Depression somewhat filled it in. You see the cracks? 100-pound barrels of gunpowder. There's 3 of these magazines. This little air vent right here, I saw one of you was trying to see through it. You can't, because it's at 90-degree angles. This is a 5-foot wall here. And it's at 90-degree angles. Why? If a lucky shot can't go straight into the powder magazine, it's got to make left-hand turns. Okay, but it allows it into there. We have various wars and occupations by the United States forces. These rooms, their purpose would serve various things. But during the battle, this was where all the food was locked up, okay?
Here we have guys mixing mortar for the bricks to build the walls. This is original magazine to a pretty sturdy pine. Several underground cisterns. This was not potable water, but they use it for other things. And there's the water pump.
We're all just biding our time now until the enemy finally decides to attack us. I must close this letter now, and we'll write it. You wanted to know what it was like to be a soldier here at Fort Macon, so I will tell you. We all live in the rooms of the fort, which are called casemates. They are very comfortable, except that they heat during rain and can be very cold. Our mattresses are cotton tick bed sacks stuffed with straw. Every month, each man receives an allowance of 12 pounds of straw stuffed his bed sack with. Each man also has a heavy army blanket for warmth. There are no bed linens for us and no pillow, unless a man wants to roll up his jacket or overcoat and place it under his head. The clothes, of course, were kept put away in trunks. And my sidearms without the field arms, a sword, and a Colt Navy pistol. And well, I remember the long hours spent at my desk. Each day I would have to go over morning reports of my company commanders, rolling sick reports, inspection guard reports, daily requisitions for rations, and outpost reports. Copies of outgoing correspondence were always entered in a letter book by myself or my adjutant.
This is the Civil War in North Carolina. 1861.
Following year,
62.
General Campbell's on-site constant operation and recapture. Colonel Moses J. White, in fact, refused to invade the surrender in March 1862. Part of Ferguson's forces under General John G. Parker, meeting Navy gunboats offshore to surround the fort. Here, 3 man's war, routing back the Confederate Alliance forces. Union forces entrenched in the sand about 1,200 yards from the fort. It was 1862.
Here we are. We went to Fort Fisher. In 1865.
Confederate soldiers